Hey everybody, Edo here, and for this week's League video, I want to talk about something a little bit different. I want to talk about the Becket Mottos and board games. Now, if you've never heard of Becket or the Becket Mottos, that doesn't surprise me because Becket is a all-boys summer camp in the Berkshires. And a little bit of background to start, and then I actually want to talk through and walk through these mottos and how I've come over time to apply them to board games, game playing, content creation, Kickstarters, being a creator, and all different sorts of ways. Little background on me. Some of you may know this, others may not. I grew up in New York. I lived in what I would say was probably in a suburb north of New York City, Westchester County. Upper middle class. I had a wonderful childhood. I'm very fortunate, and as part of that, I went to this all-boys summer camp. Now, it's a YMCA camp, but it's not really exactly my heritage. My father's European. They immigrated to the United States like in 1900, like over 100 and whatever, 20 years ago. That's a little more, but like 1900. He's fair-skinned, fair-skinned, blonde hair, platinum blonde. No, he's not. When he was a baby, he was platinum blonde, I guess. But blonde hair, lawyer from Brooklyn, Jewish, and my mother is actually Panamanian. Our family's from Spain on that side. Then during the Spanish Inquisition, came down to Aruba and Panama, and some to Holland and all sorts of places like that, and then came up to the United States. So on her side, I'm first generation. On his, he'd be second, second. But so really mixed heritage, and it's a YMCA camp, but I wasn't really heavily religious. They did have chapel and whites on Sundays, and I don't even think I had white clothing at the time. Like, it was super weird. But anyway, at this camp, they had these mottos. Now, I actually haven't heard mottos like them in all that many places, but my kids tried and have been doing Boy Scouts, and a number of the Boy Scout mottos are similar. So I don't, there may be different historic, these mottos may come from different places. I haven't actually researched the mottos and how much of them were part of the group or whatever. But they have sat with me over my life. And, looking back now, few things have had as big an impact on me in terms of just key concepts that are about sort of being good and being wholesome in different ways. And I'll talk about it as opposed to rules and approaches and things like that. So let's talk about the Becket mottos. First one, do your best. All of these speak for themselves, right? But I think it's critical in life and in creating and in board games that when you endeavor to do something, when you try, you should always do your best. You should always strive to work hard and excel at what you do to your best of your ability, because you know what? As you do, you get better and better. Your best changes over time, and I think as a Kickstarter creator, as a board game maker, whatever it is you're doing, if you come to the table and you try your hardest and do your best, you're going to get better, you're going to learn, and the people around you will recognize that. Don't be half-efforted about things. You really want to try to excel and try to just do great work, right? It isn't always going to necessarily be great work, right? If you have children like I do, you can see that concept of do your best, but, some people haven't yet developed all the skills where their best is world class. Their best might be the best that they can do, but they're trying. They're trying. Hey, clean your room and do the best job you can, right? Again, when on Kickstarter and when making things, I just think that kind of effort and energy is so rewarding. It rewards you internally, but also I think is what will help you, again, just get better and excel in the future. So that one is fantastic. The next one is play the game. Now, when you're a kid, play the games sort of like put an effort in, join, try to have fun. Like, game is very much about an activity, especially at camp, right? It's like, play the game, man, come on. Sorry you got knocked out of Foursquare or whatever. But I think, and it's true for board games, right? Play the game, with kids, younger kids who like are losing and they, stick to it, enjoy, participate, right? Participate in life, participate in what's going on. As I've gotten older and I've done the Kickstarter route and the creative stuff and I look at the market, I've started to take more meaning from play the game. For me, I think in some ways, life is a game. And I don't want to understate or overstate, but life is filled with mechanics and rules. It's filled with dynamics. And it's filled with winners and losers and other people who are success and fail and try, all these different things. And when you're doing a Kickstarter or you're being a creator, I think having a little bit of an attitude that this is a market and a system is really important. Like people who complain about, all this competition on Kickstarter, the way that Kickstarter is changing and all this, it's like you should understand and know those things. But sometimes you just got to play the game. Like sometimes you just got to try, and if there's somebody there that's better at marketing, cooler theme, bigger, more dollars in their pocket, like that's sort of part of it. And along the same way, it's like you're not always going to come out on top. People succeed and fail in board games and succeed and fail in Kickstarter. And the more you can say, well, that didn't work, I'm going to try that again, I'm going to fail fast, I'm going to go and I'm going to play again, and I'm going to keep on playing the game, that's so important. As is, if you're a board game designer, you're really good at understanding mechanics and dynamics and how they work together, right? Thinking about the mechanics of a market, who your user is, how different parts of the system move, can in many ways become a superpower for manipulating and trying to be successful in that market or game or life, right? So I think play the game speaks to engaging and participating, but I've come to also pull this idea that if you think of things as games, which is games like you all should, you should be able to understand the players and the characters and the narrative and the tension and all these different things, which will give you perspective, it'll give you smarts, it'll really help you be successful, and I think help you on Kickstarter and help you at all these different parts. I guess in some ways, perhaps this is sort of Ed's perspective on life lessons, but again, these are ones that I just think to these lists, and they've really helped me, in particular, doing pencil first games, doing content creation, and all that stuff. So I want to share it. So, there's only 8 of them. Number 3, manners maketh the man. Manners are important. Manners are valuable. Manners we see less and less on the internet these days, and I think just reminding yourself, and manners maketh the woman, right? There's all boys camp, but that isn't to say. But that if you come forth with manners and you are respectful and you are courteous and you do those things, it's not like everyone's going to do it back to you, but I think it helps keep you in the best position possible when dealing with and handling lots of different situations, right? So having good manners with your teammates and your partners, having good, like your vendors, being respectful of them, with backers, avoiding getting into frays if you can, and sort of rising above and really having sort of a good posture about things, not that I have a good posture at all, I think is really valuable. And just to be clear, I look back at these mottos. I don't follow them every day, and I've certainly had times in my life where I've failed at these terribly, right? And I think that's okay. I think over time you grow and you change, and one part of your life you're going to be a better person than you were in another part of your life. But I do think they're all good cornerstones to think of and look back to, and then sort of self-judge yourself. How are your manners? And something I also typically will tell people is just that, again, how you present and carry yourself is something that other people see, sense, and reflect upon. And oftentimes, manners and politeness and appropriateness reflects confidence and capability. And that's really important too, especially when you're interacting with different peoples in different forums. Number 4, and I think these are all important. This one always stands out to me. It's peace through understanding. It's the idea that when you understand somebody else's perspective, when you understand somebody else's situation, when you understand the dynamics, mechanics, all the things going on, you can appreciate them, why they feel the way they do, and have a more peaceful and thoughtful engagement with those people. Or, I guess, people. The whole internet thing right now, right, with all of the negativity and polarization and everything that goes on is challenging, and it challenges sort of being a centrist. It challenges the idea that people have perspective, and if you understand their perspective, you might appreciate where they're coming from. You know, to some degree, it comes down to whether or not you think people are inherently good or bad or whatever, right? I don't want to get into it, but I have found that understanding and being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes can be a powerful way to navigate a conversation. Tangibly, when you're running a Kickstarter or you're running a company, your ability to recognize why somebody might be saying what they are saying, or in terms of feedback on a game, why somebody's giving you the feedback they're giving you, is really critical. Not having a gut negative pushback reaction, but actually trying to understand the perspective will allow you to absorb the feedback you're getting. It'll allow you to navigate and deal with the unhappy customer. It'll allow you to figure out the best way to make your point. It doesn't always work, and sometimes the peacemaker becomes the target, right? Like, you know, this isn't perfect. Life is hard, but I have really found that the more you're able to consider and think through the other perspectives, the more powerful it is to you running a company, creating a game, that kind of thing. It's sort of, to me, it's sort of, if you want to be sort of, what's the word, like pragmatic about it, in a way it's sort of part of playing the game, right? It's part of this idea of learning, understanding, and watching and thinking through the dynamics and mechanics, all the different things that are going on to have the best outcome. And oftentimes the best outcome will come if you know why there's friction. I make tons of products. I've worked on teams of all sizes. One of the key pillars of success on a team is communication, information, and prioritization. If everyone on the team, like when there's a disagreement and argument, everyone wants to be successful together, but when there's a disagreement or an argument, if you can get everyone to have the same information and understand the same prioritization, maybe they don't agree, but whoever's making the call, typically the answer will come out of that. So that's a really powerful way of doing it. And so that's a really important concept. Number 5 here is I can and I will. Right? I can and I will, and it's about initiative, it's about standing tall, it's about taking things on, it's about going for it, it's about willpower, that is. It's I'm able to do this and I'm gonna do it. And that is a huge and important piece of it, right? And a piece of doing a Kickstarter and being a creator is going for it, taking the bull by the horn, diving in, understanding that if you're able to do something, you can do it and go for it and have faith in that and push towards it. I think life doesn't always work out, but a lot of success, a lot of the people I've seen who've been truly successful in many ways have a vision and have an ability to not let reality stop them. And I think that's important to remember, and it's important to remember if you're somebody who likes to be organized and considered and risk calculations and all these things that slow you down. I think sometimes you just need to say, I'm going to do it because I can and I will, right? And I think, all of these might mean something else to you. There's no colon definition that goes along with these. Like, at the camp, they're like up on the wall, and every once in a while we say them, or somebody, like counselors like say it, and when you're like playing a game and somebody doesn't want to do something or what, I think that as you grow, you interpret these, and again, it's something I've been doing. So you may have all your own interpretations. Please do. Please share. If you've went to Becket or want to tell me how I've mistranslated these my whole life, that's fine. These are where I've taken them to, right? Each for all for each, right? And what a powerful snippet, right? Somebody, I forget who it was, but like used to love saying the same, and like none of us are getting out of here alive, right? Like we're all in it together in one form or another, and the more we can recognize and understand we are part of a community, the more we can contribute to the community, support and grow the community, grow the market, grow the industry, the better. Not everyone agrees with that, right? Like, these are all things you could easily disagree with. But there is a power in the idea that there's a contribution you're making more than just to yourself. And I think that's important. And again, these are things I've sometimes lived up to and sometimes I've not. But then there's that second of all for each, is the idea that as a community, we're also aiming to support and help each one of us in the community. And that's also important. And that's also important because people and their status change over time. Somebody who is a newbie becomes a pro. And as you're moving through these systems and through these communities and these groups, continuing to contribute to the group, but also to the other individuals involved, is very rewarding, very powerful, and a huge contributor to the success. The board game category on Kickstarter, being what it is today, is not typical, right? There's tons of other categories in Kickstarter. Board games have just been massively successful, and a huge part of that is the board game community, the creator community, and the support community, helping everyone learn how to make games, deliver games, be successful, communicate, market, all these things. And it really is something special. So I think that's a really important concept. It's a great concept with peace through understanding. I'm trying not to get into anything going on in the world today, but lots of ways you could apply almost all of these or any of these to our situation and things that are changing around us. The next one here is better faithful than famous. And again, as I mentioned, I, as an individual, don't have a strong connection to faith in the sense of a religious sense. But and as such, I never interpreted that this way, though I guess many could. But when I read and learned and spoke and thought of better faithful than famous, I always thought of it in a camaraderie way, in a bunkmate way, in a friend way, which was this idea that, it's better to be true and honest and engaged than to, sort of take the opportunity to be famous, step on somebody, put your head up, and all that stuff. I think you see this kind of idea all the time in the board game community, and I think if people try to always remember that dynamic of something that's, how are you being lifted up, and are you lifting yourself up by pushing on others, and what does that mean, and what is it doing to them, I think is really important and something to be considerate of. The concept, it's sort of like, better faithful than famous is one of the key concepts from Coco at Pixar, if you haven't seen that one yet. But I think or better family than famous, perhaps. But, I just think it's important and worth keeping in mind. The last motto is help the other fellow. And this really applies to a lot of the other ones, but contribute, help, support. I have found so much value and satisfaction and opportunity come from sharing, supporting, and trying to be helpful. And I really do think that it is a powerful life lesson. And for me, at least, it has offered a lot of huge positivity in my life. I think that, again, it's part of lifting everyone up. It's part of each for all for each. It's part of better faithful than famous. It's part of all these different things that I think will help everyone be a little bit better. And, again, this is a weird video. I don't know. I feel like there are some simple ideas and concepts which, can have power, and power for people, and power for our community, and power for creators, and power for gamers, and power for players, and power for, I really think we can and should and all strive to be great, and work together to do that. And I think that's an important thing. So do your best. Play the game. Manners maketh the man. Peace through understanding. I can and I will. Each for all and all for each. Better faithful than famous. And help the other fellow. If even one of these resonates, awesome. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Most importantly, play some great games.